Unafraid Show College Football Live. And this is the week 9 recap. And we had all sorts of stuff go on this weekend because Texas and Ohio State are struggling right now. Oregon dominated. We got Colorado and Miami who deserve respect right now. And y'all don't want to give it to them. Y'all going to give them some damn respect. The question is, can Penn State, Tennessee, and other teams keep up with the pace of what is going to be a ferocious finish in college football? And this is the week 9 recap. So we got to talk about a lot on this show. And it is the Oregon Ducks, clear number 1 team in college football. The SEC fight for survival because Texas A&M won versus LSU, and now Bama and LSU. Oh, games for all the marbles this weekend, buddy. And then we got to talk also about the teams and the games that we thought were going to be good and turned out, and we need to pay attention to them this weekend. And of course, our creeper teams, the Heisman picture, and everything else. But the first thing I want to talk about is and I saw my buddy Jeff Swartz talk about this. And he talked about that when he was watching the Oregon and Illinois game, he was like, man, it feels unfulfilling with conference realignment. And that these games that were our conference games now, that they don't feel the same as the old conference used to because there's no history to them with the fans and the new conferences. And how do you feel about that with your new team? So make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend about the Unafraid Show. And of course, most importantly, get notifications and share. So the question is, so like Oregon got, it was a ranked game, Illinois, Oregon, number 1 versus number 20. And ordinarily you would sit up there and you would think, all right, this is a big game. There's some investment in it, but there's literally no history between Oregon and Illinois. And that's one of the things that these new conferences are bringing is that I wonder how long it's going to take to really build some of that history, because for so long it was, Oregon, Arizona, Oregon, Utah. They had beat you sometimes. You had beat them sometimes on games that matter the most. And now there's just not that. And the question is, how long is it going to take to feel like that? Because I do believe that these new conferences are better off for pretty much everybody. All the conference, all the people who are in the new conferences. But the biggest thing though is that is this going to translate into better rivalries long term? Because Oregon and Ohio State, yeah, like that's going to turn into a thing as long as Oregon keeps winning, right? It's not going to be Michigan, Ohio State, or anything like that. But you could have, there become some rivalry between USC and, Indiana that didn't exist. Or like when Stanford with Oregon, where Stanford just kept beating Oregon at times that were very inopportune. So that's the question. You guys can weigh in. Do you think that, how do you feel about these new conference games? Does it feel like a conference game and anything else? All right. I will also say that SMU going to the ACC and Oregon, that investment in themselves, huge, huge. It is paying great dividends right now because SMU may be in the ACC championship, has a shot to get to the college football playoff, and they're taking no money from the ACC. Oregon is getting a limited share for a couple of years in the Big Ten. That is the definition of if they build it, well, if you build it, they will come. And if you build it, it might turn into something great. It's like investing in your own project instead of going to go get outside money. And I know that Cal, Stanford, and Washington are in the same position. They're just not getting the same return on investment at this point in time. But now, though, as we start every single week with the recap, I got to give you my 5 best teams of week 9 in college football. My 5 best teams of week 9 in college football. First up, this is a team that we must start to respect. And I was kind of trying to think about why Colorado is not getting respect. So Colorado is first up. They beat Cincinnati 34-23, and they are now 6-2. They are bowl eligible, and people are just ignoring what's going on, because if this were last year, this team would be ranked significantly higher than where the AP poll just ranked them. And I just want to let you know, the Unafraid Show poll was ahead of the curve. We had them ranked in week 8 because we saw what they've been doing, and we're not reactionary. We see what's being put on the film, and then that's how they get ranked. But Colorado, Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Horn, all the rest of the crew, they are balling. This looks like a good football team. Are they a great football team? No. But are they really good? Yes. Yes, they are. And I do believe that people are having fatigue about it, but we'll talk more about that later. Number 2, best teams of the weekend, the Oregon Ducks, 38-9 over Indiana, complete domination. And that's exactly what you expect the number 1 team in all of college football to look like. And that's what they showed up and did. They balled out. Number 3, Notre Dame. Notre Dame just absolutely put a whooping on Navy. And yes, is Notre Dame supposed to beat Navy? Yes, of course. But did they beat Navy? Yes, and they beat them really, really bad. But you guys, though, make sure that you guys like, subscribe. I'm going to give you a chance. If you're watching on YouTube, go on YouTube, like it, leave a chat comment, because the show has been continuing to grow, and it is thanks to you guys, and we cannot ignore it. We are extremely close to 20,000 subscribers, and when we hit 20,000 subscribers, it will be big giveaway time for you guys, because you guys are the ones that made this happen. All right, so so the next team up, the Indiana Hoosiers. What is Kurt Singetti out here feeding these dudes? They beat Washington 31-7. Their quarterback Royke is out. They turned to Taven Jackson for the second week in a row, and he delivered again. So it looked like the wheels were going to fall off, but check this out. We already know the situation with the Big Ten. There are 3 undefeated teams right now. There's the Oregon in conference, the Oregon Ducks, Penn State, and Indiana. Now, none of them play each other in the regular season. However, though, Indiana has the opportunity to make sure that either there's a 3-way tie or that they are in the Big Ten championship. So good on them. Congratulations for everything that they've done. Listen, Kurt Singetti, you deserve all the credit, because the fact that this man had been on staff at Alabama, and his wife told him, do not take this job at this little bitty Division II school. We're not taking steps backwards. He was like, baby, I want to be a head coach. She finally bought in, believed in it. And then he went to be a Division II head coach, ends up at James Madison, then ends up at Indiana. Bro, this dude is going places. And the fact that he will talk his trash is the best part about it. So if you have not seen Indiana play, people, tune in to see Indiana play. It is worth your time. Hell of an offense, hell of a defense. They're doing good work. The next team, this is a team that has been completely forgotten about this year, and that is Washington State. They are 7-1, and I will take any opportunity possible to talk about their quarterback, John Mateer. And on the College Football Apostles on Thursday, we talked about the quarterbacks who are going to be in the transfer portal this year. I believe that John Mateer is going to be one of them, and it's going to be because of the money. You're going to have people like Michigan offering $2-3 million for a quarterback, and if you don't think that John Mateer is one of them kids that could be out that door, bruh, please believe me. Please believe me, that could definitely happen. All right, now though, it is time for the worst college football teams of week 9. So that was the best. Here's the worst. We got LSU. LSU, they let Texas A&M come back and beat them with one man, Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed, the quarterback, came in, threw 2 passes in a half, and just absolutely changed the game. It was basically Wildcat football. LSU, what are you doing, fam? You blew a 2-score lead. Couldn't run the ball or stop the run. But anyways, though, the next team up, Syracuse. Lord have mercy. They got absolutely just hung upside down by their toenails by Pittsburgh, 41-13. Their quarterback McCord threw 5 interceptions. Their offensive line between scheme and execution was atrocious. The dude was under fire all night. It was not a good performance on, what was that, Thursday, Friday night? Either way, it was bad. Number 3, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And then, yes, this is another team who won that ended up on the naughty list because Nebraska had no business in this football game. This is the same team that got beat by Indiana last week, 56-7. So credit to Nebraska for coming out and fighting hard. But Ohio State just came off of a bye week after losing to Oregon and put up a performance like that. Yeah, that ain't gonna cut it, buddy. That ain't gonna cut it. That sounds like another loss is coming. You keep showing up like that. We saw that out of Ole Miss. We saw that out of Bama. You keep flirting around with that line, you will fall off. All right, next team up. Though Kentucky. Kentucky, they played Auburn and they lost 24-10. Yes, remember Kentucky, the same team that beat Georgia? Yes. No, well, almost beat Georgia. They are 3-5. Auburn is 3-5. What? Come on, Kentucky. Come on. You got a $9 million head coach in Mark Stoops. This is completely unacceptable. 100%. Come on, Kentucky. I know y'all fans ain't cool with this, but this was not good. And number 5, I actually feel bad about even putting these dudes on this list, but the list is the list, fam. The list is the list. And that is Navy. Now, I love our service academies, our service academies and our men and women in arms just like anybody else. However, they got beat 51-14 by Notre Dame. And I know they're not supposed to beat Notre Dame, but they made us believe that they could because they were ranked in the top 25. And then to get beat like that, no sirree. But now we got to get to the games, though. LSU versus Texas A&M. What probably turned out to be the biggest ranked game of the weekend because Oregon and Indiana was over before it started. LSU was ranked higher. People were like, yes, look at LSU. But you know what? If you paid attention to the Unafraid Show rankings and this show, you would know what Texas A&M has been up to. This is a team that since that Notre Dame loss, and remember, Notre Dame week 1, everybody was like, okay, cool, Texas A&M lost. They're kind of out of it, maybe not as good. But I got to start with their head coach, Mike Elko. He was able to build from that Notre Dame loss, motivate his team. They are playing good football. They're playing hard. They've been through multiple quarterbacks between Connor Weigman and Marcel Reed. But their coach, Mike Elko, who used to be their defensive coordinator over when Jimbo Fisher was the head coach, now the dude is the man, and he's acting like the man, and he deserves every single piece of credit that he's getting right now. Every single win that he's getting right now is deserved, and it is earned. Good job, Mike Elko. You are absolutely killing it. Now, this game, though, it might as well have been 2 separate games. 2 separate games. There was pre-Marcel Reed and there was post-Marcel Reed in this 38-23 win. Because this game was 17-7 at halftime, and Connor Weigman was 6 for 18. It wasn't even this looked like a one-sided affair, and that LSU was going to run away with it. But then, good old Mike Elko. What does he do? Pulls out that bag of tricks. Calls on Marcel Reed. He only went 2 for 2 passing. Think about that. If I told you that the game got transformed by one player and it was the quarterback and he only went 2 for 2 passing, would you believe me? You'd be like, nah, Now, I don't know about that, George. Well, what Marcel Reed did, though, he absolutely transformed this offense because he had 9 carries for 62 yards and 3 touchdowns. And you're like, George, how is this transformational? Because just the idea, and this is why football has changed in terms of quarterbacks, because I'm not a huge running quarterback fan. I'm a mobile quarterback fan. And we got to understand the difference between mobility and a runner. A mobile quarterback is going to be able to extend plays. He can give you additional time with your legs, pick up first downs, and all of that stuff. A runner is going to first read out. He's not going to go through his progressions as much. He's not going to be a super efficient passer. And that's just me. But Marcel Reed came in this game after he was a starter for a couple of games and then came in and balled out, made a lot of really good decisions, was tough, and this absolutely changed the whole game. But the question is, how is Texas A&M going to move forward? How are they going to handle this quarterback situation? Because you got Connor Wigman, who's been okay at times, especially passing the ball, and then you got Marcel Reed. So how are they going to, like, which direction are they going to go? Or is Mike Elko going to have to call this on a game-by-game basis? And this may actually be one of them 2 quarterback situations that actually works. It may have to, because that may be the only solution, because it may depend on the style and the matchup, because college football is like boxing. Styles make fights. All right, so but we also got to talk about this LSU team, because this team could not stop Texas A&M from running the football after Marcel Reed came in. 49 carries, 242, 5 touchdowns. Now, on the other hand, LSU only ran for 23 carries for 24 measly yards. What? And yes, I know Garrett Nussmeier was 50% threw for 405 yards, but he also threw 3 interceptions. And the reason why that is, bing, 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 because you couldn't run the football. If you cannot run the football, you cannot win. But now they get a chance to go up against Bama for all the marbles. I love it. And they said the regular season won't matter. I bet you that Alabama LSU game mattered to a lot of people. I'm just saying, though. And you guys make sure that you like, subscribe, tell a friend about the Unafraid Show. Give it a thumbs up and hop in the comments. Let's check the chat. See what you guys going. Yep, a lot of go Ducks in there. And yep, and you guys make sure you share. All right, so let's talk about them Ducks. Illinois versus Oregon, 38-9. Now, there's a lot of times where a team gets ranked number 1 and then they immediately fall off. They can't handle it, because success is actually harder to handle than defeat. Success is harder to handle than failure. And this Oregon team against Purdue, where they beat 35-0, and then this Illinois game where they only gave up 9 points. They gave up 1 touchdown. They've shown that they are efficient. They've shown that they deserve to have that number 1 ranking. And when the AP poll came out, there was only one voter who did not give Oregon a number 1 place vote. And that was my guy. What is up with you, John Wiltner from the Mercury Times, from the Mercury News? You covered the Pac-12. That lets you know he ain't got no homer in him. He apparently has some thoughts about it. And, of course, we got to ask the mans about it. All right, but Illinois' quarterback coming into the game, Luke Altmaier, the dude had been efficient. He had been able to not make mistakes. The running game was going. They did it against Michigan, where they beat 21-7 last week. And that's not what happened this time. The team got down so fast that then he had to throw the ball all over the place and then ended up throwing 2 interceptions, which is not his MO for this season. Last year, yes. This year, absolutely not. Now, because this Oregon pass rush and their DBs were just way too much for Illinois. They overwhelmed them from the beginning, and this team looks complete. In all of my years watching Oregon, this is probably the most complete team that I've ever seen them. And all of the Dylan Gabriel questions from the beginning of the season, he's shutting everybody up. Yeah, okay. I wish you would get talking crazy about him right now. Just saying. But in offensively for Oregon, no. The offensive line was great. They kept Dylan Gabriel clean, except for the one coverage sack where he was standing back there for about 2 hours and still got sacked. But the team rushed for 229 yards. And I got to give some credit to Jordan James and Noah Whittington. These two running backs are proving to be much better than I thought they were. I thought they were good running backs. I did not think they were special. Noah Whittington's coming off a major knee injury, and this is the first time that I've seen him. And I'm like, oh, wow, that juice back. And Jordan James is turning into a really good running back. Can't say special yet. Really good running back. And Dylan Gabriel, Heisman contender, uh 20 completions, 298 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he had a rush touchdown too. That's gonna get you to New York City, buddy. All right. Next game up. Nebraska versus Ohio State, 21-17. Now, this was not the type of performance that we were expecting after a loss to Ohio State. And you had a bye too. What is going on? It's like Ohio State could hear all the noise from their fans complaining about the Oregon game. The coach was complaining about the Oregon game, and then they got caught up and got caught off guard by Nebraska. And if Dylan Raiola, Nebraska's quarterback, was a sophomore instead of a freshman or older, they would have won that football game because Dylan missed a couple throws that he needed to make. He missed a couple of sight adjustments where they were blitzing, and then he picked them up after. But an older veteran quarterback usually gets that right the first time. And Dylan, I think, is going to be really good. But it is clear at times that he's a freshman. He's missed some throws that he needs to make, that a young player is going to miss occasionally. And this Nebraska team is on the right track. They are 1 to 2 recruiting classes away from being a problem. Good job, Matt Rule, buddy. And he's proving too the idea that he's a college coach and not a pro coach. Or maybe it was just the Carolina Panthers that were a bad situation. But good job, Matt Rule. Great job. You have rebuilt Nebraska football, and the future is bright. So he's going to be able to go out and sign a good recruiting class because he can sell them on the fact that the future is brighter than the past. Now back to Ohio State for a second. Their star running backs, Judkins and Henderson, were absolutely shut down. Under 3 yards a carry on 20 carries. And Will Howard, the numbers look good at the end where he finished 13 for 16, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. But he started slow. And you're like, what the hell's going on? It's almost like Ohio State was caught up in the Oregon game. I'm telling you, that's the exact type of performance that gets put out when you're worried about something else. And I remember that my pops used to always tell me. He'd be like, keep your eyes forward, son. Don't look in the rearview mirror. And when you get to looking in the rearview mirror, you get to paying attention to what's behind you instead of what's in front of you. And that is a big deal for Ohio State. So the question is, was this just, and I'm gonna ask you guys too, you guys can leave in the comments, was this just one bad game for Ohio State? Or is this symptomatic of a problem, kind of like Bama's dealing with? The next team that has a little bit of a problem right now, and that is Texas. Because Texas played Vanderbilt. They won 27-24. And yes, this game was on the road at Vanderbilt, which is clearly, I guess, where good teams go to die right now. But Quinn Ewers, he played poorly in the Georgia game, at least for part of it, because he was under fire. And so much so that they put Arch Manning in. Sark can tell us whatever reason that he wants to, but you don't change a quarterback out unless you're thinking about changing a quarterback out. And Quinn Ewers in this game. And I've said, the ice is thin. He was 27 for 37, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. I know that they want to stick with Quinn Ewers. Texas absolutely wants to stick with Quinn Ewers. However, sticking with Quinn Ewers with these types of performances are going to be hard when there's a faction of the team that believes that Arch Manning is the better quarterback. That doesn't mean that Quinn Ewers is not an NFL quarterback. Because I had this happen where we had Joey Harrington end up being our starting quarterback because AJ Feely got hurt. And then Joey took the job. AJ never got it back. And then AJ went on to get drafted and have a long NFL career. Because this game for Texas, they didn't close this game well at all. They were up 10 points in the fourth quarter. Couldn't close it. Vanderbilt had the ball at the end and had a chance to go score. So this same Texas team that looked so good at the beginning of the season, now the question that we have to talk about is, if we're really being honest, is that Oklahoma win. Oklahoma's now 4-4. Michigan is 5-3 right now. They don't look particularly good. So the question is, how are we supposed to view Texas and their resume at this point in time? Because there's a lot of teams like Ole Miss blew bad teams out. I'm just saying, we need to see a big win out of Texas, because that Michigan win, even though it was on the road, yes, that's a very solid win, but we don't have a good one yet. And now, are they the only team that doesn't have a good win? No. Ohio State doesn't have a good win yet, and neither does, Miami doesn't really have any good wins. Clemson, I'm not even sure if Clemson's played a team with a winning record right now since that Georgia game. But you guys make sure that you like, subscribe, tell a friend about the show. Hop in the comments, people, and share. Here's your opportunity. Come on. All right, now we got to get to the Heisman top 5 before we get back to the games. My Heisman top 5 for week 9. Number 1, this man was out to an astronomical lead, and that is Aston Jeanty, running back at Boise State. Now, he was really good in the game against UNLV. He only had 120, 130 yards in the game, so it was far below his season low prior to that of 150 yards. Where we had Barry Sanders, the guy whose record that he's trying to break, never had less than 150 yards. And this is exactly why I said Boise State should have been running up his yards against teams where they were blowing them out. Against the Utah States of the world. When you had a chance for him to go for 350, you should have put him out there to get 350. Just like they did with Jaden Daniels last year with LSU against HBCUs. Just like they did with Caleb Williams. Run up them stats if you want the Heisman. If you don't run them up. I'm just saying. Number 2, Cam Ward over at Miami. He had a simple day this weekend because they had Florida State on the menu, and they absolutely just beat them up. They beat up Florida State exactly the way you thought they should. Cam Ward didn't have to do anything special at all. So that was kind of a pass kind of game for him, but he's still in that mix. Third up, we got Dylan Gabriel over at Oregon. Dude is great. He's been good. And he just continues to get better and better. And against ranked teams, against Ohio State, against Illinois, he's doing his thing. You cannot deny it. Now, number 4, this is a guy that we did not have on this list, and he's replacing his teammate on this list, and that is Shedeur Sanders. Because Travis Hunter basically missed 2 games, and I'm sorry, Travis, I wanted to give you the Heisman Trophy, but you missed 2 games while all these other dudes are out balling. I'm sorry. I do think that you may be the best player in the college football this year, but we're going to have to look at the whole resume. Sorry, just don't work like that. And number 5, Shedeur Sanders, to go back to him for a second, he's not getting the talent. Well, he's not getting the attention that he should because, number 1, all the hype he got last year, and then Colorado just cratered. But now, sitting at 6-2, guaranteed a bowl game. They might get to the Big 10 championship, Big 12 championship. If they get to the Big 12 championship and win the Big 12 championship, Shedeur Sanders should absolutely be a finalist for the Heisman and possibly even win. Just saying. Number 5. Oh, this dude, I talked about him earlier. Number 5, John Mateer. John Mateer, quarterback over at Washington State. Are you kidding me? The things that this young man is doing, it is electric. He was 19 for 27 for 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and then ran the ball another 21 times for another 2 touchdowns. Washington State does nothing without him. He is a one-man wrecking crew. Good job, John Mateer. The next game up, because we're going to get back to the games right now. This was a game that happened over the week prior to Saturday, and that was Syracuse versus Pittsburgh. 41-13. I'm coining a new term right now. This was a Stallions game. And so when I say Stallions game on this show, it means a Connor Stallions game. And I'm not accusing Pittsburgh of doing anything nefarious or anything wrong. No, a Stallions game is when it looks like the defense knows exactly what the offense is doing. I was watching this game. It looked like Pittsburgh, that Syracuse was shown scout team cards. Because what happens in football is they bring out the cards that have the plays on them. They bring out the cards that have the plays on them, and they show them up to the defense. And then the defense goes or the offense, and they go play. Well, it looked like scout team cards. Like Pittsburgh knew every single thing that Syracuse was going to do. But I do got to give credit because they picked off Kyle McCord 5 times. In fact, they got 3 pick sixes. I want to boo the Ohio State fans who were dancing on this kid's downfall because he was second in the nation in passing. Still ended up throwing 35 for 64 for 321, and he got no quit in him. None. And he had every right to be like, damn, I done throw 5 picks, three picks, and go out there and quit. And he didn't. He fought to the end. The kid was tough. His teammates picked him up. I love how his coach, Fran Brown, handled him. Because you don't bench him. Second lead passer in the nation. He's the only reason why you got 5 wins right now. Come on, man. But I will say, on the other hand, this undefeated Pittsburgh team is a problem, people. Is a problem. And their quarterback, Eli Holstein, is efficient, and his defense is solid. But in this game, they did not need the offense. They only had 217 yards of total offense, but the defense was incredible at disguising and at pressure. Next game up. And you guys make sure that you guys like, subscribe, share the feed, and hop in the chat. All right. Missouri versus Alabama. 34-0. Do not be confused. Do not read too much into this, Alabama fans or people judging this team. Do not make too much out of this win because Missouri, even though that they were ranked, they've been underperforming from their non-conference games. All of that top 10 hype from the preseason has not lived up to it, not even one single solitary game this season. And their quarterback, Brady Cook, went to the hospital last game, came back, threw the game-winning touchdown, tried to play this game, couldn't play. Their running back, Noel, was out. They had about 5 other players out. So you got an underperforming team that was hurt at their most crucial positions, and then we're going to be like, oh, it's 34-0. Listen, it's not like Alabama came out and opened up a can of whoop ass, because that's not what happened. Now, their quarterback, though, Jalen Milroe, I will say, good for him. He's starting to get some of his confidence back. But He threw for 215 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. And he rushed for another 50 yards and a touchdown. That wasn't the type of performance that's going to get him back into the Heisman Trophy conversation. But it was solid, though. It was solid, and that's what he needed, was to have a confidence game where he can start seeing the field a little more clearly, because he wasn't seeing it clearly for a while. Now, this Alabama team got LSU left, must-win game. Every one of their games left is must-win. They got LSU, which is going to be tough. Then they got Mercer. Yuck. At this point in time, why is anybody playing Mercer? Why are you playing Citadel? Why are you? This is gross, and this goes into why the SEC is completely overrated at times, because during that Mercer week, you're going to have ranked teams play each other. Somebody's going to lose, and then Alabama's going to creep back up the rankings because they played Mercer. And they're going to jump back in front of whoever played a ranked game or a conference game and lost. And then they're going to jump in front of them and go like, yo, see, Alabama's good. No, hopefully the committee don't fall for that. Then they got Oklahoma and Auburn, both technically losable games because of how Alabama's been playing. Now we got to get to a team that has a huge game coming up this week, and that is Penn State. And this Penn State issue is exactly why when people are like, George, aren't you so happy for Oregon? They're going to win a national championship. I'm like, slow down. There's a lot of games to go. There's a lot of practice to get through. There's a lot of driving down the street. There's a lot of all sorts of things happen. And I've been played before. Don't do it. And Penn State had exactly what happened, what no team wants. Their quarterback, Drew Aller, went out with a knee injury. He was 14 for 18, 148 yards and a touchdown. And they ended up beating Wisconsin 28-13. Huge win. Excited for him. And then their backup quarterback, Bo Pribula, he came in 11 for 13 and a touchdown. So they got efficient play out of their backup. But Drew Aller has played in a lot more games, been in a lot more stadiums, seen a lot more things. And if this knee injury lingers or is serious, it is going to be a major problem for Penn State beating Ohio State. Now, to their credit, though, it does remind me, well, this game is going to be in Beaver Stadium. It is going to be in Happy Valley, all white, everything else. But this is scary territory for them. But their offense, though, it did remain conservative, focused, efficient. And this offense reminded me of the University of Oregon when Marcus Arroyo was their head coach, was their offensive coordinator, and Justin Herbert was their quarterback. Now, there was a lot of people that were like, oh, Justin Herbert, not an NFL quarterback. And people like me are saying the same thing about Drew Aller. Or maybe it is the offense and what they're allowing him to do and what he's being coached to do. Because they don't take a lot of shots downfield. They are concerned with moving the sticks, keeping them moving, and not wasting plays. Just saying. But their running back, though, Katron Allen, 11 for 86 and a tub. Nick Singleton running the ball well, too. And Tyler Warren, their tight end. He's one of my favorite players in college football. Everybody knows this. Do it all tight end, like guys like him. But I want to talk about this Penn State defense, though, because they are legit. They are legit. And even with their quarterback out, they still did well. But a little bit of chink in the armor against Wisconsin, because Braden Locke actually had some success with explosive plays in the pass game. So did USC. So this is back-to-back games that Penn State is giving up some explosive pass plays, which are 20 yards or more. 13-plus yard runs, or 13 or more yard runs and 20 or more yard passes. Some people call it, 15 runs, 25 passes, but the general rule is, 12 or 13 and 20. Now, the question is for next week, though. Will Ohio State be the third team in a row to get them explosive plays off? Because between Jeremiah Smith, Egbuka, and the kid that got off this last week, could be tough. Now, This Wisconsin team, though, they're going to be a tough out, whether at home, especially at home at Camp Randall, because they got another big one coming up in, I think, 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and that's Oregon. And they are going to be trying to knock Oregon out of the Big Ten championship, out of the one seed for the playoff, out of the number one and everything. So this is a tough out. So Oregon's going to have to bring their A game on that one. Just saying. So we got to give credit to this Wisconsin team, well coached, and I can't even imagine how good this team would be if Tyler Van Dyke was still their quarterback because the kid got hurt. But now I wanted to talk about some games that we thought we would care about. Games that we thought we would care about, but we don't because some of these teams are bad. And that first game is Florida State versus Miami. This was a 36-14 win for Miami. And this was, boop, press the easy button. Boop, press the easy button. Miami had no trouble here. Ole Miss did it. Ole Miss did what they needed to do, which was win this football game. They were able to keep it together. And this is a game that we thought was going to be great because Oklahoma started out the season ranked highly. Nope, it was an unranked team versus a number 18 team that people are kind of iffy about right now. But the good news for Oklahoma is they went back to Jackson Arnold at quarterback, and he wasn't bad. He actually did some nice things. Extended the ball, it extended some plays with his legs, made some good throws, didn't turn the ball over. So there's some hope after Brent Venables fired their offensive coordinator last week. They have some hope. And Ole Miss, on the other hand, Jackson Dart threw for another 300-yard plus game, but their running game was mid, and their offensive output overall was just okay. Like this is not the Lane Kiffin offense that we were promised coming into this season, and it's damn sure ain't the defense that we were promised coming into this season either. It's just not. But such is life, fam. Such is life. Next game that we thought we were going to care about, but turns out we didn't really care about it this weekend, and that is Michigan State versus Michigan. Now, we thought we were going to care about it a little bit more because of Michigan, but Michigan came into this game 4-3. Michigan State, while they're having a decent season, they're clearly in a rebuild with their new quarterback and head coach with Jonathan Smith and Aiden Childs. But they actually performed pretty well in this weekend. Michigan State is growing and getting better. I told everybody that this was a game that they could win, and I knew it was a game that they could win. And they had a chance, but they weren't able to pull it off. And now Michigan, though, they did a smart thing. And I said this a week ago. They should have gone back to Davis Warren at quarterback. He went 13 for 19, 123 yards and a touchdown. But Alex Orji, though, still did get in to run the football, 6 carries for 64 yards and a touchdown. And they're going to have to figure something out because Oregon's coming to town next week. And this Michigan team is, just hanging on by a thread right now. Now, their running back, though, Donovan Edwards, the kid who ended up on the cover of NCAA, College Football 25. Is there a college football curse? Because if there was, he would be under it right now because this season has not been it after a brilliant national championship game. Brilliant. And people wonder how these things happen. I'm going to tell you, from my experience, there's one of a couple ways that these things happen. Because this seems like the good old Nick Saban rat poison. Because you either been reading your press clippings and you like, I got it. We good. And then you end up having to eat a slice of humble pie. Or you had a Linsanity moment. And I'm going to go with he did not have a Linsanity moment because the kid can ball. Because last year, we were sitting there like, actually, weird because last year, he actually didn't get as many carries as Blake Corum, not even close. And people were like, why is he not getting the ball? Well, maybe he wasn't performing in practice the way that he should have. But then in the national championship game, broke them long runs against Michigan. Kid looked great, but how much of it was blocking and how much of it was him? That's the question that we really got to ask right now. And NFL scouts are probably going to answer that question. But now, last week, I put out a creeps list. A list of teams that are creeping in the college football playoff and in that race, and people aren't talking about it. And this week, BYU is back on that list. They had a 37-24 win over UCF. And I want you people to pay attention to what's going on with BYU. They are in charge of the Big 12 right now, but their schedule is not exactly easy. It's not exactly just going to allow them just to walk out the door because this is a good football team and not a great football team. They're a good football team. And BYU is sitting there on the way out. They got 4 more games. They got at Utah, which is going to be tough because it's at Utah, but Utah's not playing very good right now. They lost to Houston this week. They got Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston. Very manageable on the way out, but you can't get cocky. You can't. Because BYU's the type of team that even if they go undefeated, it's going to be tough if they lose in the Big 12 championship game. And I'm telling you this, the College Football Playoff Committee is going to have to be willing to piss off the Big Ten and the SEC because of do what you are supposed to do what you are tasked to do. And you see the AP voters trying to do a little bit of the bidding for them and try to make it okay to not put, teams above teams that should be. I'm just saying. I'm checking over in the comments. You guys like, subscribe, tell a friend about it. Leave a comment on the chat. Leave it in the video. If you're watching it after, go ahead, thumbs up too. Get notifications too. We need them. We're almost to 20,000 subs and big giveaway at 20,000 subs because you guys have been absolutely amazing. Comments though from Kim. Oregon can no longer be ignored. No more Pac-12 after dark. No more talk about weak schedules. I mean, that's true, but the conference was really good last year too, even though a lot of people don't want to give them the credit. Pac-10 was great last year. People are not talking about Kansas State. They had a 29-27 win over Kansas, and Kansas State is starting to feel that pressure. I'm telling you, that pressure is starting to mount as being a team that is highly ranked. And when you get that pressure on you, it gets heavy every single game, and they're starting to feel it. They're ranked number 16 in the country. They're on the cusp. They got an inside track to the to the Big 12 championship. They got Houston, Arizona State, Cincinnati, and then Iowa State. Team that nobody is talking about right now either is Iowa State, who's ranked number 11 in the country. Just saying. Nobody's talking about SMU right now because SMU just took down a 6-1 Duke team, and they survived the worst game of Kevin Jennings' life, where he had 1 touchdown, 3 picks. But this SMU team had been extremely efficient on offense, and they're ranked number 22, so they are in the ACC mix. But they got Pitt. They got Pitt this weekend, and that is going to be a tough game. Whoever wins that game is going to be in the ACC championship because I don't see SMU losing to Boston College, Virginia, but that Cal game could be tough because, like I told you, that pressure mounts, and once that pressure starts getting up on you, it gets tough. I also wanted to, before we get out of here, talk about the Boise State game because they beat UNLV 29-24, and Ashton Jeanty 33 carries, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns, and this is what good teams do. They find a way to win when it matters the most, and that's what Boise State did. This UNLV team is good as well. Very good football team. And it's a shame that one of them has to get left out of the college football playoff, and it's probably going to be UNLV because Army still in. Memphis is flirting around with an opportunity to go as well. So, um, oh, and before we get out of here, I did want to look at the standings for just a second so I can update you on what's going on. So, in the ACC, the Clemson is at the top of the standings at 5-0. Miami, SMU are 4-0. And then you got Pitt, who is 3-0. And Miami doesn't play any of those teams this season. They don't play any of them. Clemson only plays Pitt, and then I told you about the Pitt and SMU game. So the Pitt and SMU, one of them's going shake out. But if SMU wins though, and then you can end up with a three-way tie between Clemson, Miami, and SMU. They don't want that. Now, over in the Big 12, you got two undefeated teams. You got BYU and Iowa State. And obviously, I told you guys earlier that Iowa State still has Kansas State. So that's going to shake out itself because of tiebreakers and then the BYU situation. But BYU still has Utah, Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston. So for Colorado to get back into the Big 12 championship mix, you're going to need a loss from Iowa State and Kansas State. That's what you're going to need. Over in the Big 10, you got Indiana, Oregon, and Penn State. Now the question is how all these tiebreakers are going to work if all three of them finish undefeated, because they do not play each other. And that creates a whole nother can of worms. So the Ohio State is on the outside looking in 3 ways. But they can knock it down to 2 ways if they're able to beat Penn State this weekend. And the last conference that we're going to talk about is the SEC. Because you got Georgia in the number 2 seat behind Texas A&M. Texas A&M is number 1. Then you got Texas, Tennessee behind them, LSU, Bama. So this is going to get real, real interesting over in the SEC because you're going to have some combination between Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, who are all ranked in the top 10. It's likely that 2 of them are left out of the SEC championship. And then LSU can get back in that mix too. So imagine if I had told you before the season. If I told you before the season that neither Georgia or Alabama would be in the SEC championship, would you have believed me? And both of their quarterbacks were healthy all year. Is there any chance you would have believed me? Nope. Well, welcome to the new normal college football season. And you guys, I'm George Wrighster. This is the Unafraid Show College Football Week 9 recap. Make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications, and share with a friend. Peace out. Catch you later.